Welcome to the Wellness Lab Digest, where we help you to absorb powerful, life-changing insights from top wellness experts with our daily bite-sized wellness podcast summaries. Each episode is packed with distilled, powerful takeaways to boost your health and well-being. To support this podcast, please scroll down on whatever app you're listening. Ratings and reviews are helpful. Even better, just send the show to a friend. Check out our sponsors at the bottom of the page, or simply click the Support the Show link below the episode description.
Trust is one of those things we think we understand, but here's something that'll make you think twice. Research shows we decide if someone is trustworthy in just 30 seconds, and that snap judgment affects our relationships for years.
That's fascinating and honestly a bit scary. You mean we're making these massive life decisions based on half a minute of interaction?
Exactly right. And here's what makes it even more complex. We're all lying way more than we realize. The average person tells about 1,460 lies per year.
Hold on. That works out to about 4 lies every single day. How is that even possible?
Well, men actually lie about 6 times daily, while women lie around 3 times. But you know what's really interesting? It's not just about the lies. It's about how we fundamentally misunderstand trust itself.
What do you mean by that?
So we tend to think of trust as this all or nothing thing, like either we completely trust someone or we don't trust them at all. But that's actually a huge oversimplification.
You know, that reminds me of how I used to approach relationships. Either someone was completely in or completely out of my circle of trust.
Right, and that's exactly where we go wrong. There's actually this fascinating 4-level framework for trust that completely changed how I view relationships.
Oh, tell me more about these levels. How does it work?
Well, the first level is what's called neutral trust. It's like starting at 0. The key here is avoiding what psychologists call the halo effect, where we see one good quality and assume everything about the person must be good,
Like when someone's really well dressed and we automatically assume they're successful and trustworthy?
exactly that. Or when someone's good with kids and we think, oh, they must be trustworthy in business too. It's a cognitive shortcut that often leads us astray.
So what's the second level? How do we move up from neutral?
The second level is contractual trust. Basically, does someone do what they say they'll do? Do they show up on time? Follow through on commitments? It's like the foundation of reliability.
That makes so much sense. I'm thinking about all the times I've overlooked basic reliability because someone was charismatic or exciting.
You know what's funny? That happens especially often in romantic relationships. We get so caught up in the chemistry that we completely skip over checking if someone's actually reliable.
So true. What about the third level?
The third level is reciprocal trust. That's when you stop keeping score. Think about your closest friends. You don't track who paid for lunch last time or who called whom first.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. It's like that comfortable zone where everything just flows naturally.
And then there's the fourth level, pure trust. That rare, unconditional trust where you trust someone with your life. But here's where it gets interesting. We often make the mistake of jumping straight to this level with people who haven't earned it.
That explains why betrayals can hurt so much. We're falling from level 4 all the way down to 0.
Exactly. But there's another layer to all this. The 4 different types of trust: competence, care, consistency, and character. And this is where things get really interesting.
How do these types work together with the levels?
Well, think about it like this. Someone might have high competence trust, like your financial advisor, but lower care trust, or high consistency trust, like an old friend, but lower competence in certain areas.
That's actually really liberating. It means we don't need everyone to be everything to us.
Exactly. And it helps explain why we sometimes feel let down by people who are actually just operating in their natural trust zone.
So how do we actually apply all this in real life? It seems like a lot to keep track of.
The key is to start being more intentional about how we give and build trust. Instead of giving away level 4, trust immediately, we start at neutral and let people earn their way up through consistent actions.
And I suppose we need to be clear about what type of trust we're looking for in each relationship?
Precisely. Like, maybe you don't need your workout buddy to have high character trust. You just need them to be consistent in showing up for gym sessions.
This is really making me rethink some of my relationships. I've definitely been expecting some people to fill roles they're not suited for.
You know what's really interesting? This framework also helps explain why trust is so complicated in the digital age. We're making these split-second trust decisions based on social media profiles and carefully curated online personas.
That's such a good point. How do you think social media has affected our ability to build genuine trust?
Well, it's created this interesting paradox where we feel more connected than ever, but we're actually having fewer opportunities to build real contractual trust. We're skipping straight to trying to establish pure trust based on digital interactions.
And I imagine it's made it harder to assess things like consistency and character when everything online can be edited and filtered.
Absolutely right. Plus, we're now dealing with multiple versions of people. Their online self, their professional self, their personal self. It's like we need different trust assessments for each version.
So what's your take on rebuilding trust once it's been broken? Is it even possible to get back to level 4?
It's possible, but it requires understanding that you can't skip levels. You have to start back at neutral and work your way up, proving yourself at each level. And importantly, both parties need to be willing to engage in that process.
That's actually quite hopeful. It gives a clear pathway for rebuilding trust, rather than just feeling lost about where to start.
And here's something else to consider. Trust isn't just about other people trusting us or us trusting them. It's about creating an environment where trust can flourish at all levels.
How do we do that?
Well, it starts with being trustworthy ourselves. As the saying goes, trust is built in drops and lost in buckets. We need to be consistent, follow through on our commitments, and be honest about our capabilities in each type of trust.
That's really powerful. It's not just about assessing others, but also about being worthy of trust ourselves.
And remember, it's okay to have different levels of trust with different people. Not everyone needs to be at level 4, and not everyone needs to excel in all 4 types of trust.
This whole conversation has really changed how I think about trust. It's not just this vague feeling. It's actually quite structured when you break it down like this.
That's exactly right. When we understand the mechanics of trust, we can be more intentional about both building and giving it. It's about finding that sweet spot between being too guarded and too trusting.
And remembering that it's okay to trust different people for different things. We don't need everyone to be everything.
That's really the key takeaway. Trust is nuanced, and understanding these levels and types helps us navigate relationships much more effectively. It's about being smart with our trust, not stingy with it.
Thank you for listening to the Wellness Lab Digest. If you have received value from the podcast, I have 3 asks of you. 1, share the show with your friends and send them a link to the show. 2, please leave a rating and review in whatever app you're listening. And last but not least, please let me know what topics you would like us to cover in the future. You can contact me by sending me a message using the Send Us a Text link below the episode description.